Good morning, everybody. It's Pastor Kip from Aletheia Church, and I just thought I'd hop on here to do a short video about sort of some thoughts I've had, random thoughts I've had concerning this Texas abortion law that was passed here during the last week or so. Many who know me know that I've been involved in the effort to abolish abortion, and so I often get questions whenever any new sort of law is passed or any is proposed or anything like that. I often get questions about it, so I thought I'd just kind of address it here, and that way I can get my thoughts sort of collected, I guess. Anyway, so the Texas state government passed a law last week, or this last week, that basically makes it illegal for a woman to seek an abortion after a heartbeat is detected. It makes it illegal for a person to perform an abortion after a heartbeat has been detected. And this law is unique among other heartbeat bills in that while other heartbeat bills have been stalled or held up because of held up in the courts in order to try to adjudicate whether they're constitutional or not. This one, it looks like, has been passed through or ignored by the courts. The courts have refused to take it up because of a certain specific thing with this law. You see, this law doesn't seek to criminalize abortion. What it does, rather, is it makes abortion providers and anyone who is involved with the abortion procedure at all. It could be the person that drives them to the abortion and so forth. It makes them liable to a civil lawsuit for, if I understand it correctly, for an amount of $10,000 plus court costs. And so it makes the offense a civil offense, not a criminal offense. So a person isn't facing jail time for doing these things. And I think that probably lawmakers thought that was a good idea because these other heartbeat bills are getting held up in court because of Roe versus Wade. This one seeks to circumvent Roe versus Wade or work within the limits of Roe versus Wade, rather than trying to challenge it outright. So anyway, what are my thoughts on this particular abortion legislation? Well, the first thing that I would say, and I believe has to be said by any Bible-believing Christian, is that this law is not good. It is not good. Not good in the ultimate sense. Now, those who would take issue with me saying that, stay tuned for a little bit later. We'll get to something else that we might find common ground with. But first and foremost, the law is not good, and the reason it's not good is because the law in its essence frames iniquity by statute. It is an iniquitous decree. This is what Isaiah warns about. Woe to those who make iniquitous decrees. And the reason it's an iniquitous decree, let me just go down to explain what that means. Is that the reason that it's an iniquitous decree is simply because the law does not apply. The law does not apply evenly to all of those who bear the image of God. In other words, this law says after a heartbeat can be detected, then the child may not be murdered. But before the heartbeat can be detected, the child may be murdered. So you see, it's still taking that same old ageist framework. It just has moved the goalposts back a little bit. It really is no difference. I mean, why make it at a heartbeat? I mean, why is that the arbitrary standard? Why a heartbeat? Some people answer the question, well, if you see a person passed out on the lawn in front of you, the first thing you do in order to tell if that person's alive is what? You go check their heartbeat. You check to see if they have a heartbeat, and that heartbeat is a sign of life. Well, that's all well and good, but you and I know, and everybody knows, because science declares that, and the Word of God declares, and science is in accord with this, that life begins at conception. I mean, and so this is still an iniquitous and sinful decree because life begins at conception. Everybody knows that. And many jurisdictions have even recognized that fact by law, like in Indiana here. But if life begins at conception, then the right to life also should begin at conception. The legal protection for life should also begin at conception. So this is an iniquitous decree because it allows for some living human beings to be murdered indiscriminately up to their mother because of their mother's whim. So that's first and foremost, and I think that's the most important reason why this is not a good law. This is not a law that we should be supporting. This is not a law that we should advocate for, that we should spend any energy whatsoever in praising or anything like that. It still allows children who are made in the image of God to be destroyed indiscriminately based on the arbitrary whim of their mother. They just have to do it before a certain time. So I think that's a problem. Not only that, but it's also a sinful decree because it fails to challenge the injustice that is already in the land. Roe versus Wade is an unjust court opinion that legislators have kowtowed to for almost 5 decades now. And rather than challenge it, rather than ignore it completely, which is what they should do, just like the sinful Supreme Court decisions in the past, they should ignore it completely. Rather than doing that, though, they try to work within the framework of Roe versus Wade, and in doing so, they simply strengthen Roe versus Wade as some sort of legal precedent. I think it would be better if we would take the example of Wisconsin when the Supreme Court decided that the Fugitive Slave Act was constitutional. Wisconsin said not in our state, and they actually took up arms against the federal officials in their state to expel them and reject the Fugitive Slave Act. So anyway, I think that's what we all need to do, because this is an unjust court ruling that needs to be opposed by every sensible human being, not to mention every Bible-believing Christian. So rather than working within the framework of Roe versus Wade, we should ignore it altogether as the sinful, disgusting, unrighteous, unjust law decision that it is. That's what we need to do, and that's what Christians should do. This law doesn't do anything to challenge that. It tries to circumvent it, and in doing so, basically says, yeah, Roe versus Wade is the law of the land. It is not. It's not a law. It's a court decision, and it's an unjust court decision that should be duly ignored. So that's another reason that this is an unjust law. Now, to say that this law is not good, however, is not the same thing as to say it's not useful or can't be useful. No, this law is useful, all right, and it's useful to a number of different people for a number of different purposes. I think it's useful to get the conversation going about what actually needs to happen, because it was Texas law and it was Texas compromise that got Roe versus Wade passed to begin with. It was a Texas law that in the 70s that allowed for it was a Texas law that allowed for the exceptions in cases of rape, incest, health of the mother, and all this sort of thing. That was one of the reasons cited by the justices in the Supreme Court decision that they cited that as an inconsistency, and that is why Roe versus Wade was decided to begin with. So it's useful to get the conversation started about that, and I think we should press that. It's also useful to notice the effect that abolitionists in recent times have had on the conversation of what needs to be done legislatively. This kind of law would not have even been considered by the pro-life movement just a handful of years ago. But unrelenting and uncompromising abolitionists who have been ministering, who have been vocal, who have been busy on social media promoting and getting the message out there, they're the ones who are driving the movement in moving the Overton window, if you will, to the right, to the cause of righteousness. And so I think that's useful. It's useful to notice and to track our trajectory, if you will. Pulling many of those leaders of the pro-life movement along, kicking and screaming, because we have been noting their inconsistency, their apathy, and their do-nothingness. So that's been good. But I would also point out that this has not only been useful for those reasons and for those people, this has also been useful for the pro-abortion movement as well. I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but here we are in the immediate aftermath of this, and we can expect some of this to go on, but there's been Planned Parenthood and other abortion kill mill providers. They have ramped up fundraising efforts and using this as a means to pull the heartstrings of those people who are supporting them. And so they've been using this as a massive fundraiser, and it's been working. I think it was Lyft just here recently gave $1 million to Planned Parenthood in light of this Texas law. In both Uber and Lyft, I saw an article about this morning, that they both said that they would cover any expenses for Uber drivers or Lyft drivers who drove women to abortion kill mills and who ended up getting sued for this. So they would cover those fees. So yeah, that has been a useful fundraiser, a useful PR campaign for the pro-abortion movement. They have been permitted to, and let's face it, they have a louder media megaphone than we do. They've been permitted to spout their lie that this is a thing about women's rights, rather than it's about the ability of a woman to unjustly kill her child. They've been able to do so loudly because of this law. That's an inevitable consequence. If abortion were banned outright in some jurisdiction tomorrow, they would still be able to do the same thing. That's for sure. But at least they would be showing their true colors at flaunting a just law rather than an unjust law. So anyway, those are just some random thoughts that I have on this topic, and I'm sure there'll probably be much more debate to come in this sort of thing. But I would encourage you in your effort, because I know many Christians watch this, they don't understand the issues with the pro-life movement. In your effort to abolish abortion, understand this: it's not just about saving babies. That is a good thing and a worthy goal, but it's not just about that, and that really isn't even the primary reason why we do what we do. Because undoubtedly, if abortion is abolished tomorrow, there will be an underground movement of abortion, and there will still be babies dying. We're not going to save every child. We're probably we can save most children, though, and we can do that in a way that does not compromise our commitment to biblical principles, and our does not compromise our commitment to the gospel. And so I would encourage you that whatever it is that you are doing, whether it's giving money to a crisis pregnancy center, which is good to some effect, or whether it's standing in front of kill mills trying to share the gospel with women, which is an excellent thing to do, whether it's trying to encourage other Christians to get involved in this fight, which is absolutely necessary. Whatever it is that you do, just keep in mind that the legislative end of this thing, it needs to be done in a way that honors God. We cannot give, as Rusty Thomas calls it, the offering of Cain. We cannot give an offering to God of something that is unacceptable to him. And what is unacceptable to God is making law or drawing up laws, iniquitous decrees, by framing injustice as a statute. That is absolutely unacceptable to God. And so we must do better, Christians. We can do better. And let me urge you, do not stop here. Do not stop because this thing will get shut down somehow because it's, again, not challenging Roe versus Wade. Do not stop here. Go further than this. Go beyond this. Seek equal protection. Seek true justice. Seek justice by the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the only hope that we have. That is what we must trust in. That's what we must depend upon if this battle is to be waged and if it's to be won. God bless you. I hope that to hear from you on this topic, may God just direct our steps as we continue to wage war against this evil of our age.